Welcome in our IT guy, James Sam.
Hey, I'm just gonna say if they go 0-31 in fourth quarter and games that they're trailing by 7 in the fourth quarter, then I got to be honest. If Bill Belichick is available, then he's my head coach next season. Like straight up. Like,
are you being serious?
If they would have lost, you would have fired Shanahan.
Are you being serious?
At what point do you have to?
Not
when he
now.
Sucks. When you're not winning.
When he can't get your team over the hump for four times?
No, you do not fire Kyle Shanahan. No.
Hey, if he wants to say the Brady thing, like, oh well, if we got Brady, well, you got to be honest, we got Belichick.
Look here.
Oh,
this is the I gotta dive more into this.
I was not expecting that to start.
Maybe I gotta dive more into this. I never took him seriously. I don't even think when Brock was saying it, he was saying it in a serious way.
I'm saying it in jest as well, but at the same time, like, you only get so many times to make it to have the best team in football and not win the championship.
Here's the great news.
How many times does he have the best team in football?
One right now.
Well,
certainly right now, but the last couple of years, you could argue that there
were
were
a wild
multiple
card
times.
team every year.
So I got great news. One, I have the quote. Two, he said it to our friend Nick Wagner. So we could just ask Nick what the tone in this was.
We did.
About this quote?
Yeah, because we had him on.
Okay, and what did Nick say? Was the quote because here's the exact quote. That meant so much to me. I remember Shanahan saying, if we get Tom Brady, let me start that dump. That meant so much to me. I remember Shanahan saying, if we can get Tom Brady, we're going to try to get him. And I was like, yeah, he's the GOAT. I get it. But something deep down inside me was sort of like, dude, I just showed you that I can play well in the system. And we were one game away from the Super Bowl. ... More than anything, I was like, okay, now let's go. That's the quote in its entirety. I don't know what those dots can be dangerous, but they're there.
Okay, so I'm just going to point out that you get Brock Purdy into this game, and everyone says, "Oh, Brock Purdy's never won the big game. He's never had to come back in a game, right?" Mm-hmm. Well, the 49ers being 0-30 in that situation long predates Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. That's not a Brock Purdy issue as much as it is a Kyle Shanahan issue. If you've never been able to lead a team back, okay, that's a problem. And, the stat just keeps going up, and it's everywhere, right? Oh, my gosh, they're going to go 0-31. And I guess 1-30 is much better than 0-31 if you're going into the fourth quarter by trailing by 7. But how do we expect Brock Purdy to win a come-from-behind game like that, which is what everyone keeps saying? We need to see him do it when it matters. When your coach has never been able to do it. 30 games he lost in that situation. So I get it, but
a lot of that, I'll put it a little bit into context. The first 3 years of Kyle Shanahan, they were probably down in the fourth quarter almost all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's probably, I'm not saying all the games.
I get it.
There's an asterisk. That's like 36 games alone, the first three games. It also doesn't take into account, because of the time period of it all, and I admit it's a crazy stat, but the time period of it all, he came back to lead them to the playoffs against the Rams. He came back and go in Green Bay to knock them out of the playoffs in the divisional round in the snow. But once again, it doesn't fall into the time frame of what that stat says. So it's just get washed under the umbrella of he can never bring a team back.
No, I get you. And I honestly think that, it deserves a much larger discussion and like laying all of the stats out. But there are plenty of teams that over the history of the NBA or the NFL, you get to a certain point and you keep stopping at the same point or around the same point. You got to find someone who can get you over the hump. And I'm not saying that Shanahan has to win a championship this year, but if not this year, when is he going to do it?
That's what you said is absolutely fair. I think we're at least 3 years away from that. At least.
Yeah, but I don't know. 3 years away from that, there might not be a Kittle. There's certainly not going to be a Trent Williams. There's not going to be a Fred Warner. Like there might not be. Like you have windows in the NFL, and if a coach can't get you over the hump in that situation. It's same in the NBA. You coach gets a couple of times going to the playoffs. Then there comes a time where you got to get that other guy who can get you over the hump.
Should
And
the Eagles have fired Andy Reid?
probably not, but I don't know. He couldn't do it there.
He did it without him.
No, he did.
And it says that wasn't a him problem.
Well, maybe.
Eagles won too.
They did win.
20 of those 30 losses
Win.
came in 2017.
How many
when he was hired.
losses?
20 of those 30 came in 2017. 2018 when Jimmy G was out for the year and the roster was still rough. And then 2020 where everyone was hurt, including Jimmy and Nick Bosa. So 20 of those 30 losses came in those 3 years.
Would the stat have been better, though, if they flashed it up and it said he's 0-10 in games where he's trailing by 7 in the fourth quarter?
Well, you tell me, because Kansas City wins 30% of those games. Is that a good number?
No.
The league wins like 7% of those games.
Yeah.
Like would have been
The league as a whole wins 7% of those games. So it's the zero that gets everybody's attention.
right. Like is the stat better now?
Like right.
No,
like
it's 1 in 31. It's the
but
now
this,
it's like he got over the
But
hump.
this is a
Got the monkey off his
distraction.
back.
This is I need you to say unequivocally, if the Packers had won yesterday, you would have fired Kyle Shanahan.
I would have thought long and hard about it.
Mm.
And not like any offseason. I'm not saying that, like, but you do have the greatest NFL coach win-wise, the guy who's won the most Super Bowls, sitting there interviewing for jobs all over, who if that job, right, if this job comes up, would just go, I'm in.
And we're positive Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time.
No.
He's got 5 rings.
Yeah, so how many without Tom?
None.
Well,
How
yeah,
many does Tom have without Bill?
He can barely make the playoffs
One.
without Tom Brady.
Yeah, but
can barely make
the
the
team got
I was
old.
going to say, did he make the
He made
playoffs
it
without
1 year
the
with
first
Mac.
year?
But you
He got
replaced
smacked
a
up in the first
legendary
game.
coach with a rookie, and it didn't work out, and the guy regressed.
I like Bill Belichick. I'm just saying we're
Bill Belichick,
positive.
a hell of a coach. It's
Positive.
Bill Walsh. Still Bill Walsh.
okay.
I'm saying if ever there were a position where he would go, oh yeah, I'm in, and have a shot to go win it the next year, this is it.
I think Kyle Shanahan is just fine.
Maybe.
James.
I
Instant gratification.
I don't know instant gratification. We're talking about 4 times now. He's got his team to a spot where you're like, okay.
Well,
here's the-
again,
And, like, there are
context is
reasons.
important. Like,
there are reasons.
like, look, they lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs.
Yep.
You had last year.
Mm-hmm. The
You
quarterback
have this year.
situation.
Which one am I missing? The Rams. And what did the Rams do that year?
Won the Super Bowl. You know, not saying that this gives you like forever immunity or anything like that. You know how many organizations would die for 4 NFC championship appearances in 5 years?
You know, it just dawned on me too. Do you know how many organizations would fire their head coaches if Kyle Shanahan became available tomorrow?
God.
If James Ham was running the San Francisco 49ers and fired Kyle Shanahan, oh, there'd be what's I always forget his name. Eberflus. He gone. Like there's at least 6 coaches who are out.
I'm just saying, at some point, Kenny's mystical how many championships we should have.
14.
It has to actually be a ring. It has to be a trophy. And you can't keep saying, well, we were close. It's like, okay, you know?
Sure, we're not there yet, though. We're not even close.
I don't know.
Like, we're not even close. Firing?
Man,
Like, fire him?
I was
Like,
not
no.
expecting that.
Criticism and you know, and maybe bringing them into your office and talking like, hey, this needs to turn around. Yeah, that's one thing, but flat out firing? Nah.
You might have one more season to Trent Williams. You can't waste him. You can't waste him. So I mean, I'm just saying,
It's also
used
like
to-
not that easy to just win a Super Bowl.
well,
Because
I get that.
now, see, I need people to figure out what's going on. I need people to figure out what they really want. Not you, James, but people to figure out. Because now the Niners look the weakest of everybody left.
Mm-hmm.
So are they still expected to win? After Christmas, they weren't the favorites no more.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore way better. If they play him
Mhm.
again, Baltimore gonna blow him out. So if he hell, a lot of people think Detroit gonna win. So
Yeah.
everybody thinking Detroit gonna win. Kansas City and Baltimore are better. So now is it an expected to win situation?
I don't know. You have one of the top rosters in the NFL, if not the top roster in the NFL. At some point, there has to be a who is responsible and where do you go from here? And like I don't know what the answer is, but I certainly know
I
that
know what the answer is. It's not firing your coach.
I don't know. You can't keep running up against the same exact thing and expecting something different.
So I said the Packers. So if they lose Sunday, you're still on this. You think long and hard about firing Kyle Shanahan?
No, I mean, well, it depends. I mean, if you get embarrassed, then yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to get embarrassed.
Well, no, but if you did,
Why does that matter?
Getting embarrassed?
Yeah, if you
get blown out in the NFC
blown out,
Championship game?
why does that matter?
Oh, I think that matters. The way you lose matters.
No, just like the way you win doesn't matter.
I
If
agree.
you win, you win.
I agree.
If you lose, you lose.
I get you.
Well, this
This went sideways on us, didn't it? You guys didn't expect that.
No, I did not. I did not. James, the IT guy, comes in. He's plugging keyboards from one computer to the other, poking his head up. Is it working yet? And then he pops up and says, "Hey, just fire Kyle Shanahan." Man, that's some heat right there. Goodness gracious. Kyle leaves for one day, and Spicy James is born. Man.
Hey, I have said, I've hinted at this before. Like, look, there comes a point where it's got to be the right voice. You got to, like, if you can't get past a certain point, yeah, like changes happen. Like, I don't think, like the Mark Jackson thing in Golden State, I don't really think that was fair per se, where you got a coach who all of a sudden got a team out of the doldrums. But I also don't know if they go on to win 4 championships if they didn't make that move.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it has to be a different voice. It's got to be something different that leads you through. And hey, look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I like, it's just my opinion. Like, I just don't think that in professional sports, you get to keep coming up short, especially in a situation where, like, look, you make it to the Super Bowl and it's just a knockdown, drag out, sure, like whatever. Only one team gets to win. I get it. And there's like the MVP and the best quarterback of this generation are waiting for whoever makes it through the NFC. It doesn't matter which team it is. It doesn't matter. You do not have the best quarterback in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's Goff or if it's Purdy. You're not even in the same stratosphere. But so I'm going to say, look, if you make it to the Super Bowl, that's one thing. But you can't just keep like getting to a certain spot, and especially if you lose in the second round of the playoffs, that would have been, to me, it would have been a major, major discussion.
Yeah, losing Saturday would have been tough. But I don't think it starts with a discussion of firing Kyle Shanahan. It's definitely it's a tough conversation because they do have the best roster in football, which is I do think Kenny poses a very fair question. Keep talking about the best roster in football and all of this stuff, and now people talk like they're the worst team left. Yeah. So, like, now what are their expectations? Did they? Oh, are you trying to convince me they overachieved all year?
No, but they're the team who isn't playing the best.
They've played one game in like 4 weeks.
No, but I get, like, I don't agree.
It's just they got their ass kicked by Baltimore. That's really what all of this boils down to.
And look, and the Chiefs got their ass beat on the same day.
Man,
don't know why.
Shout out to the Raiders
because they played one more meaningful game. They played the wild card game because they didn't.
Why did they play that game?
Because
they weren't the 1 seed.
Yeah, they weren't the 1 seed,
which the 49ers were. Which they locked up in like what, week 16? 17?
17.
There's a good portion of this season where the Niners were the best team by so far. It wasn't even close. There was even
I don't know when that ended. Like, I really look. I get,
But it ended when you got beat by Baltimore.
yeah, and that's fine. That means Baltimore's, and that's fine.
Yes.
If we're playing like title belts, like Baltimore is the champ, they got the belt. That means the 49ers are the number one contender. They're not the sixth best team in the league.
Oh no, I agree.
Why the hell am I so fired up about the 49ers? The hell is going on in here? Let's I don't have a transition. Can we just go now?
Let's just go to break.
Are you
Oh, there goes Caitlin again.
No, Jesse said no. Jesse, well, let's
So
just
look,
transition to the Kings. Let's go to the Kings.
We can, or some football
Jesse's like
stuff
my partner's here. I don't got to listen to you two idiots anymore.
Cutting podcast right now, man.
No, you do have a lot of work to do today.
The one thing that I feel early, and I think you disagreed with me when we were out in the kitchen area.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Ravens are going to handle the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that.
I think every time you think that, Patrick Mahomes does something stupid crazy.
That's not true.
He's running straight downfield and then flings a 40-yard bomb on a line, and you're like, how in the world did you do that?
You know what?
The thing, real quick, the thing that I don't understand is like people act like Patrick Mahomes ain't never lost.
Oh no, he's lost.
Yeah, so how is it out of the realm of possibility that it'll happen again?
Well, it's not. All I said, I just don't think the Ravens are going to beat their ass. That's
no, not you, but James had his thought, and he's not alone though. Like,
oh no,
everybody's like, oh no, Mahomes, he ain't losing in these situations.
Oh no, that's not what I said. I'm never counting out Mahomes. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm never counting out Mahomes.
So you got to see it for it to happen.
No,
what I'm saying.
Because
what I'm
if
saying
he loses this year and he's in the same situation next year, I'm not counting him out. Then
that's
either.
What I'm saying. I'm saying if he gonna go down, you need to see it. You're not gonna
you're not
gonna pick him to lose on Sunday.
No, I'm gonna avoid that game completely.
Well, that's unfair. You can't do that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know how that game's gonna go at all.
None of us do, but we're making a prediction.
I get you, but like, I think it boils down to one thing for me. If the Chiefs receivers catch the ball, I don't think they lose.
But I also think Baltimore's a better football team. Like 1 through 53, I think they're a better. Yeah, I do think they're a much. But
Buffalo,
yes,
than Buffalo and Kansas City.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I don't think that they're markedly better than Buffalo. Like Baltimore.
Oh, I think they are.
I don't know.
I think
like if they were to play Buffalo,
I think they are.
Beat the brakes off Buffalo. I ain't gonna say that.
Yeah, like I don't think they can. I don't think they'll beat the Chiefs' ass, especially in an AFC Championship. I think they would have beat. If it had been the Ravens versus the Bills, Sean McDermott might be fired because it'd be one of those situations. I don't. And I thought the Bills were playing well. I think Baltimore's that much better. But while I think they have a better football team, I don't. I still. It probably is the Patrick Mahomes thing. It's the Andy Reid thing too. I'm an Andy Reid fan. So I think I don't have a prediction for that game at all. I'm gonna walk away happy with the outcome either way because I like both of those guys.
That's where I'm at. And
no, I like, but I don't know what you. I can't
make a pick.
I can't tell you something that I don't believe in. I'll try to make a pick by Friday, but I can't.
No, I'm messing with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, like, look on the ticker.
I'd be
how
thrilled
Chiefs
if Lamar
contain
won.
Lamar. You know what? They just got a really, really good test yesterday because Josh Allen played out of his mind, and just like what they're going to face with Lamar, where that dude's running
way better.
Well,
yeah. And,
way better. But
you tell me you say play out of his mind. They didn't contain him.
No, but they still won.
I mean,
yeah, because
yeah.
Well, there's a number of different reasons for that.
Yeah.
Receivers dropping, passes.
Yep.
Josh Allen not making the right pass when it counted. Little stuff like that.
Josh Allen did have a hell of a game yesterday. We've been talking about Josh Allen today.
So the funny
thing,
I
thought, especially when on the ground, I thought Josh Allen did a lot. One thing we didn't really talk a ton about, Christian McCaffrey. Like Christian McCaffrey didn't just have like chunk play, like his plays were like timely. It's like a game where De'Aaron Fox only has 12 points, but you know exactly when all of those 12 points happened. That's what I felt like Christian McCaffrey did. Josh Allen, a lot of those runs that he had in that game kept that game being what it was.
So the funny thing about this whole interaction, because this tweet's circulating all over the place. Now I'll read it off just so I'm perfectly clear real quick. So the tweet that I had was I talked about the Niners or Brock Purdy in his game against the Packers, and people talking about like, he had an awful game. And I said, everyone saying Purdy was awful last night with 266 total yards. Josh Allen had 252 total yards and a loss. And me talking about total yards as being nice because Josh didn't even crack 200 yards passing. They're just taking that as me saying Josh was awful last night. No, I don't think Josh was awful. I don't think he was outstanding, but I don't think he was awful. Just like I don't think Brock Purdy was awful, but I don't think you can look at those games and say one was outstanding and the other was awful.
So I
think they were both good in moments and spotty in moments. Josh Allen, after he scored 7 points in the second half.
Hey, look, there are plenty of people out there who think that Jordan Love was having a better game than Purdy, and I was like, they're both having equally marginal games. The fact that the Packers, two dudes, dropped wide open interceptions, that's on them.
And the Niners dropped an interception from one. Mm-hmm. They could have had 3.
Yeah.
Then Yaminer Lenore had one go right through his hands that probably could have went to the house.
But the stats, they show you that Brock Purdy was way better. And it's that the expectations of Brock Purdy and the counter expectations of Brock Purdy are so polarizing for some reason, which
wild.
I just don't understand. The dude was really good. He did not throw an interception. We can't say shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right. He had a handful of passes that were a little rough.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. He also had George Kittle drop a first down. We could if we want to dissect every pass play from every quarterback this weekend, we can, and we can try to determine who had the best game.
But had like 3 passes that should have been intercepted, one by 2 Chiefs players yesterday.
And that's the great thing, because I got the stats in front. No one keeps track of almost interceptions.
No.
To bring up a point we made 3.5 hours ago with people who were trying to kill Brock Purdy. We'll come back. We'll talk Kings basketball with our Kings insider of the insiders, James Ham, here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Good stuff, Ham.
Fiery. I like it.
I think I got to stick to NBA in there.
Oh, wow. Come on.
Wow.
Come on. Don't do that to
You're
him.
just going to make me dribble?
Shut up and tweet, James.
I've played more fantasy football than I think anyone in the chat here. 34 years of fantasy football.
True.
So
if you weren't checking the newspaper for your stats.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm not saying Kyle has to be fired, but what I am saying is that you have to at least consider it when Bill Belichick is sitting there. And we all know the window of the Niners is basically what you're going to get out of Belichick. And
where do
you go from there? I don't know.
Once again, what has Belichick ever done without Brady? He had 2 different stints. He didn't win shit.
Yeah.
Are we gonna act like Bill's not the greatest coach of all time, though?
Yeah.
I mean.
Look, one of the 3 greatest coaches of all time, though.
He is.
Yeah, so we're kind of splitting hairs with the Brady
We're
stuff.
not splitting hairs because he played. How many years has he not had Brady? He had 4 years in Cleveland.
Yeah, but no one won in Cleveland that entire time ever.
If he hadn't won in San Francisco in 30 years. So the fact that they hadn't won, he gets a pass? Hell no.
No. I mean, no one won at all. I'm not talking about championships.
I mean, get a pass for that.
They didn't win at all.
There ain't nobody won in Detroit, and Dan Campbell got it done. So he don't get no pass for that. He lost. That's on his record. And Brady leaves, and he didn't do shit when Brady left.
No coach would have did anything, though. He took Mac Jones. No coach was winning with that.
He chose Mac Jones, first of all.
Well, that I can't help with that.
That's true.
So I don't know what he evaluating. Hell, he couldn't make it work with Brady. So Belichick, I think he's top 3 coach. I think he's great, but this notion that, I mean, it ain't even a notion. He ain't won nothing without Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady didn't won without him.
Yeah.
So, but my point is, what does that matter though? Because we all agree he's still top 3 coach. So
it matters because I wouldn't fire Kyle Shanahan for Bill Belichick.
Well, yeah, that's different.
And Belichick has 6 rings. Man, I don't know at what point do you not question his? I mean, he the legitimacy of his greatness. I don't know.
He's great. What can be questioned is if he doesn't have Tom Brady, can he win? Because he's never done it.
Yeah.
So that's what can be questioned. Now, do I think I don't know. I think he's a great coach. He can win in other places, but we can't dispute the fact that he ain't won without Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady has won without him. With a random. Sorry, Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians ain't going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but I mean, he literally took a second-year Tom Brady and won a championship. Tom Brady, who had played one game the year before.
Mm-hmm.
In his second season, he took him all the way to they won the Super Bowl with a quarterback that threw for 2,843 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Like, there's a point where Tom Brady becomes unequivocally great and like the best quarterback, like statistics. All right.
Oh, you thought that discussion ended? Nah. That discussion kept going as James Ham is here with us as we get ready for the first Kings basketball game in just a little bit. For those curious, the last team that the Indiana Pacers beat was, in fact, Sacramento.
Oh, damn.
As they've lost a couple since leaving the friendly confines of the Golden One Center, including the big debut of Tyrese and Pascal Siakam. Yeah. Tyrese, in fact, didn't play last night. I assume that's load management, injury management. But he didn't play last night in the loss to Phoenix. And now we're seeing like a shift in standings. There's a lot of games tonight. I think Phoenix actually plays again tonight. We've got Boston and Dallas. Those games have ramifications for Sacramento. But Hammer, none of it matters if the Sacramento Kings don't end their losing streak. They've got the Hawks tonight. You got a chance to be at practice. What do you think? What do we got? I heard the term mental reset, I think, from Keegan Murray on Saturday. He talked about resetting mentally. What was the vibe over the weekend at G1C?
Yeah, I think he said that on Sunday. To be honest with you, I did not go on Sunday. I had too much show prep for this week without Kyle.
For sure.
So I needed to stay home.
It's hard when your partner's not
and
here.
Watch football.
I was preparing for that if the Packers lost.
Oh, well,
or if the Packers won, excuse me. I was like, well, Kenny's here.
Yeah.
He might as well not be, but he's here.
Yeah, I think man, I just don't see a change in their demeanor. Like, they seem fine. And it's hard to say this. They've lost 4 in a row. I would take those 3 losses that they just lost over any one of those double-digit, like, no-show games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with those games because, like, I asked Mike Brown about this on Saturday. Just, is it nice to at least have footage that you can look at? And he's like, yeah. Like, there are things that we can clean up, things that we can get better. There are also things that players do that you're like, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. You can look at them and say, okay, this can't keep happening. I need you to clean this up. And players like, okay, I can clean that up. What I can't clean up is a 30-point loss or 40-point loss at home. I can't, like, I look at the tape and like, I just burned the thing. Like, there's no reason I'm going to clip out the small section where Keon Ellis was awesome. But outside of that, like, there's nothing you can, if a team doesn't show up, there's nothing you can actually do with that game film, because it's like, okay, what do you get, like 3 minutes in? You're like, okay, energy, effort. No, you didn't try. You didn't give a second effort. You didn't give a third effort. And then when you get 10 minutes into the tape and it's the same exact thing, what are you supposed to say? But these games here, first of all, the mental mistakes of missing free throws cost them 2 games straight up. They beat the Bucks. If Malik Monk hits the 2 free throws at 18 seconds left, up, it puts them up 6. Right. And then the 2 games later, they go 18-32 from the line. And you lose a game because you can't hit free throws. Just, it is what it is. So at some point, this team has to actually figure that situation out. But it's also one of those things where most of these players aren't horrible free throw shooters. Some of them aren't great free throw shooters, but there's a big difference between Fox shooting 78% and shooting 71, 72%. Or Sabonis shooting 70-something% and shooting in the 60s like he is right now. this team is better at what they're doing, and it is better at shooting free throws than what we've seen. And I expect them to take a pretty substantial step forward. And I think it's one of those things where, again, one day they'll start falling and they'll be fine. Just like how they were a bad 3-point shooting team through the first 20 games of the season. Like, the laws of averages usually play out and you usually start to improve. But for right now, I think there are plenty of little things that happen in the last couple of games that you can point to, that you can clean up, that you can work through on 3 days off and say, okay, this is how we move forward.
So it's clear that they're going to, get some time to kind of practice some stuff and maybe get some time to rest or whatever. One of the things we had talked about is De'Aaron Fox and, in my opinion, Malik Monk not looking like themselves as of late. Do you think that they kind of needed this mental and, even physical break in the schedule to kind of regroup? Because I thought Malik hasn't looked like himself in maybe a week or so. Just looked a little gassed, the workload was starting to get to him a little bit, and same for De'Aaron Fox. Do you think that they come out of this kind of refreshed and have a little bounce in their step?
Yeah, I think so. But with this team, we don't know until they get out there and they show us. I think that's what we've learned. Don't expect anything from this team. Whatever your expectations are, they're going to be most likely they're going to be wrong on each given night. You have no idea. So for me, I want to see what they look like in the first quarter, what they look like in the first 5 minutes of the game, how the bench looks like when they come in the game for the first time, whether they've responded. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this. It's the same exact team, right? For the most part, the core 8 is a core 8. Maybe a couple of tweaks here and there. The difference is that these guys are all playing different roles than they did last season. Mm-hmm. And, Malik Monk is playing almost 30 minutes a night over the last, month. Kevin Huerter's taken a big step back in minutes. Now he's starting to come around, but his change in minutes went from 30 down to I don't know, what is he at, 25, 26? Those are big changes. De'Aaron Fox is now averaging 28 points, not 25. Sabonis is now over 20, and he's putting up a triple-double every night. These things are taxing on players. Malik Monk playing tons of minutes and having so much more responsibility, it takes its toll. Even for a guy like Harrison Barnes. Taking a huge step back.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but
2-1-1. That's a
but taking that huge step back, I think sometimes you lose sight of what it is that you need to be doing, because you're like, okay, look, I'm the 5th option, so I'm going to play the 5th option. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to be a jerk about this. I'm not going to scream and yell that I'm not getting the ball. And little by little, you start to erode who you are on the court. And so, a 3-day break. Look at tape, figure it out, and maybe you come back with a refreshed, renewed look at what you should be doing on a nightly basis.
I understand Mike's concern about the minutes that those guys are playing. We were actually asking for Malik to play more minutes, but did anyone mention to Mike, hey, you don't have a choice, man, because you stopped playing Keon Ellis and Davion Mitchell. You're playing one guard off your bench. That's why your other 2 guards are playing so much. And as KC pointed out earlier, Malik's got to play so much at times because of the struggles of Kevin Huerter and the fact that you're consistently getting single-digit numbers in the scoring column from another starter and non-existent other numbers in the rest of the box score. He's trying to pick up the slack for 2 other starters, and the second it looks like Kevin Huerter's shot's not falling, Mike doesn't go back to him.
Yeah, at this point, Kevin's down to 23.8 minutes per game. And he averaged 30.
It feels like Mike doesn't even like half the team at this point.
No, I don't think
between Huerter, Davion, and Keon, I don't even think he loves him some Harrison, but it feels like Mike doesn't like these other guys.
No,
or you know what I mean, like what they bring to Kings basketball.
I think for the most part, an NBA coach, their default setting is not to play more players; it's to tighten the rotation and try to get back to who you are, and then build out from there.
And you can't say anything about the minutes the guys are playing, though. That's my thing. If you're willing to point out how many minutes they're playing, it's because of what you did with your rotation. Now, and I'm not even saying that I disagree with it. There's a direct correlation between the way that you're coaching and the minutes those guys are playing. And again, I can't fault him when you've got a guy who when especially in Malik, where you're just searching for something offensively when Kevin was going through his struggles and Harrison going through his.
I think the answer, though, that he would probably give is, well, what is the alternative?
Right.
That I lose a game because I don't play De'Aaron Fox 35 minutes?
Right.
Because I don't have another De'Aaron Fox sitting there. And so I think, you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place if you're a coach. You got to try to play, mess with your rotations the best you can. But I don't even feel like he messes. I know a lot of people, he's messing with the rotations all the time. No, like basically the same 7 guys play every single night. And then that last 1 or 2 pieces, he gives guys opportunities for 5 or 6 games. If it doesn't work out, he goes somewhere else. It's pretty clear cut.
Well, it depends. But if there's a blowout in there, that changes.
Well, right? That just changes how much someone's going to play.
Well, right. But that's where you'll see Colby Jones play. Or that's where we saw Keon Ellis play. Keon's probably a better example. That's where we saw Keon Ellis play in blowout minutes. Mike liked it, and all of a sudden Keon Ellis was playing.
Yep.
And then out of nowhere, he wasn't.
Yeah. And again, I don't know what to make of all of that, but what I will say is with young players, you give them a stretch. And I think what you could see is Keon started to tail off. He wasn't hitting his shots nearly as much. He wasn't as active. And so sometimes it's rebooting a player and pulling him back. Plus, with Keon specifically, there's also this issue. You only get 50 games with Keon. We're 41 games into the season.
But he's been dressed for virtually all of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. We are approaching the moment where Keon Ellis will not be able to play anymore. Yeah. And you have 2 choices. You either just leave him in the G League and he's down there, or you got to sign him for the rest of the year.
Is that I always get confused. Is that actual?
It's 50 games now. It used to be up with the team.
Games that he gets in.
Mm-mm.
It's just
games he dresses.
He's on the active. Okay.
Yeah, he dresses.
I can't ever remember which one.
The games that don't count is if he's like hurt, like he was out, like he was here, but he was out a couple of those games, like he was ruled out. Those games didn't count.
Yeah.
I didn't even mention Chris Duarte, who went from starting to not playing at all.
Yeah. I think that experiment had run its course too. And what do you do though? Like Chris Duarte comes in the first game, 12 points, 7 rebounds. He gets all these offensive rebounds and puts them back. And here you are, the next 3 games, he gets like 0 rebounds.
Right.
So like you give somebody an opportunity. He got 6 games. And then it's like, look, I got to go back I got to try to get Kevin back to who he was, because that's when we're at our best.
It was 6 games as a starter.
I think it was 6 games straight as a starter.
Stupid. That was dumb.
Well, yeah, but sometimes you have to give 5 or 6 games for a player.
But he shouldn't have gotten any.
Yeah.
Kevin Huerter shouldn't have been benched.
Well, I mean, you could see Kevin's stats leading up to that benching.
Yes, you absolutely could. Like they were rough. I'd argue not an excuse. This started in training camp, and 2, I still wanted to bench him. I would have trusted him to shoot at it. We saw this last year.
Yeah,
Mike was on the sideline. Maybe it wasn't as drastic, but there were ups and downs with Huerter all year. For a lot of the year last year.
He had 6 weeks in the middle of the season where it was like, oh no.
No, this year he did it at the start of the season.
No, I agree. Last year at the start of the season, he was really good. And I know someone in the chat brings up, hey, how come James is being so hard on Kyle Shanahan, but with Mike Brown? It's like, hey, bro, 7 years in San Francisco, a year and a half in Sacramento.
Not quite the same.
That's why we're looking at 2 totally different things. Building a franchise that has been nothing but trash for 16 years and getting them in the playoffs, like
James carrying the water for Mike Brown.
Okay,
trying to fire Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
That's
we're
funny.
We're talking about apples and apples here.
Hey, so I wanted to ask you guys something before we got out of here, and want to make
on
sure
the air or off the air, like
on the air, maybe.
This
even
feels
off
serious.
Too. So you guys saw some of these rumors that
popped
up over the weekend.
Yep.
Miles Bridges in the Kings. Interest from the Kings was reported. We don't know how real it is, but
I believe that there was a specific term that was used: exploratory conversations, exploratory trade conversations. I think what it was Sacramento and 2 other teams.
Miles Bridges, who put his wife in the hospital 2 years ago, is a popular trade target. Sacramento, Detroit, and Dallas are mentioned as teams who have shown interest. I would ask, though, mentioned by who? So, like, I know Matt Moore. I've known Matt for a long time. Like, we were True Hoop guys together. I don't know where he gets his information. He has all kinds of stuff in his information, but 2 things on this one. Number one, this wasn't mentioned in the Kings write-up. It was only mentioned in the Charlotte write-up. I'm not sure why that is. If you're going to say that that's something, then you probably should mention it in both teams' write-ups, right? If Miles Bridges and there's interest from the Kings, then it should be in the Kings where you're listing the other players they're interested in. Right. So I'm slightly confused by that. But the other thing is, like, look, you probably need to say more than mentioned as a potential if you're talking about a player who, again, put his wife in the hospital in a vicious and pled guilty way. Like, because that now puts the Kings like on the clock here. Like, what are we doing here? Are you really interested? Are you really going down that route? Because I hope not.
So I have a thought on this type of stuff, especially when you hear the way stuff is worded and how it's mentioned. Like, hey, Mitch, it's Mitch Kupchak, it's Monty McNair here. You know, we really like PJ Washington, man. We have a strong interest in PJ Washington. Like, what would that look like? You know, I'm not sure we're interested in moving PJ just yet. Like, we've fielded a couple of calls about Miles Bridges, but nothing on PJ yet. Oh, what's Miles look like? Oh,
you're on the hook now. It's interested.
There it is.
You're on
like no, but hey, what's the Miles conversation look like? Oh, you know, we're looking for a rotational player. He's not going to be back here. We're looking for someone we could add to our bench. Like, whatever. Okay, well, we'd really like PJ. PJ is who we're interested in, and if you know, let's try to work out the framework of what this might look like. Get back to me in a week. Let's see what we can figure out. Bye. All of a sudden, the Kings and Hornets had a conversation about Miles Bridges. Yeah. And I swear to you, this is real life. It could be as simple as that.
It could be as simple as that. I'm not sure if I'm the franchise, I come out quickly and say no. We're not going there. And then,
but you probably don't do that because you're undercutting Mitch Kupchak at that point. And if you want to do business, I get what you're saying. I completely get what you're saying. Politically, you probably can't do that.
They can do whatever they want. They've proven that time and time again.
Fans can be mad at a conversation from a reporter they don't know. If you wrote it, it's different.
Yeah.
If you wrote it, it's very different. They don't know who Matt Moore is.
No, I get you. I would just tell you, too, that's going to be not a really 1 or 2 rough days. That's going to be an extended period of very, very rough conversations.
So
that we are having.
That man was
writing about.
That man was booed every time he touched the ball here,
but not like Josh Giddey was booed, and that's where we discussed this. I think it was you.
I thought Miles was booed louder.
No,
Josh Giddey
not
was?
even remotely.
Oh, you're
close.
right. You're right.
Every time, and
sorry.
the excuse that some people said, "Well, it's been a year," and I'm like, okay, but Josh Giddey, they never did come up with any evidence of anything, and the dude's getting booed like crazy. If anyone missed the stuff on Miles Bridges, you can go look it up. It is vicious, man. You had little kids going. The mom had the kids on Instagram doing like videos where they're talking about daddy beating mommy. Like, this was not okay. Like, the whole entire scene was brutal, and her injuries were extreme. And like, look, he pled guilty, or at least he pled no contest. I don't know. It's either guilty or no contest.
Well, those aren't the same thing. From a legal. That's important to point out legally, but
I don't think
not that I'm
there's
capping
ever.
for this.
I don't think there's ever a time where you can make that move. I couldn't imagine. And
can we point one other thing out before you continue? He hasn't exactly kept his nose clean.
That's the other thing too.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, hey, that was a horrible mistake. You know, it was awful. It was a one-time thing. It's not.
Right.
Like it hasn't been a
Well,
one-time
we
thing.
talked about after in his first press conference, and he had the press conference, and I thought, just trying to be fair to the man, we were like, the things he said in the press conference, I mean, it's kind of what that's all you can expect is like what he said.
Yep.
And then all you can do after that is followed up with genuine actions. And he hasn't necessarily done that. So I don't, there's to me, if I was Monty McNair, there's just no way I could make that move. And that's that's a separate, there's a separate conversation to be had, I think, as opposed to like you could ever make that move for anybody. You know what I mean? And what he's even doing in the league at this point. Like if you let him in the league, like he should be to a certain degree fair game for everybody to treat him like a regular player. I just know I don't think I could do that if I was Monty McNair for a number of different reasons. Moving forward, I couldn't see a scenario.
Well, to be
where I'm like,
tested this
okay.
summer because he's going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'll be back in Charlotte. And
he pled no contest, but he was sentenced to 3 years probation, required to complete a 52-week domestic violence counseling program, 52 weeks of parenting classes, and 100 hours of community service.
Sure feels like he's violated that probation at least 3
Right.
times. Like,
Well, I mean,
I guess I'm not. I just
the
guess
billiards
I just
ball thing was wild.
Yeah, that was
crazy.
it was insane.
That was crazy, man.
Yeah.
So I just
It didn't violate his probation.
so
I don't know enough about the legal system.
I just couldn't see a scenario where, as the GM, Monty could do it. I don't see it. I don't see it.
No, I don't. I posed the question in the offseason. Yeah, I don't see it.
And I think that's a fair question. Like I said, it's a fair question. The answer could be no.
Mm-hmm.
Hell no, but I think
it's like our Keegan Murray McHale Bridges conversation.
That was very
we walked through that on the air, and you have a conversation, you get to a conclusion.
Yeah, and people are throwing out names all over the place, like whether it's
not the same,
whether it's Terrence Davis or it's Darren Collison. First of all, the Kings suspended Darren Collison for the first 8 games of, I don't know, the 2016-17 season, because he pled guilty. And again, not the same at all. The Terrence Davis thing, not the same. And like you can look it up, like what, and that was while he was with the Toronto Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
And they had conversations. They went and like investigated what had happened before they made that trade and everything else. Like they did their due diligence, I guess, according to them. But again, like those aren't good situations. And that's why I think you just don't go down that path. And if it's out there, you're like, yeah, no, we're not part of that.
I got you. I'm glad you brought that up. That needed to be discussed.